shift versus compromise. So this one comes into play when we're looking at doing negotiations, where two people have some kind of conflict. They're trying to figure out how do they work it out, right? Hopefully they're seeking a win-win way, and so they're seeking to understand each other. And oftentimes you'll see people compromise. They're like, okay, well, I'll give up this if you'll give me this, right? And if both people say, I'll give up this for that, then maybe they can find a happy medium. So that would be a compromise. Whereas a shift allows both people to be in their full integrity and come to a solution that they can both very authentically say, yes, this is a good solution. So while they may have given something up, they may have released something, it's not in the same spirit as a compromise, which is, well, I'll give this up so I can have this, right? It's in the spirit of, wow, okay, now that I understand things more fully, I recognize that the best win for both of us would happen if I let go of this a bit in service of this other thing. So to give an example of this, something that happened really early on in my experience with nonviolent communication is I needed to do negotiations with my ex-husband around child support. He was making a really good income, and I was not. I was making basically minimum wage and being a single mom, and my expenses were very high. And I knew that if I brought him to court, I could get at least 2, if not 3 times the amount of money that he was giving me every month. And so I brought this to his attention. He definitely did not like it. He was not interested in paying more than he was giving me at the time. And so I felt really stuck. And while I don't like demands, I also really needed well-being for myself and for my son. I was in a very difficult situation. And so I gave him the option to do a nonviolent communication mediated dialogue. And I said, if we can work things out in that dialogue, I won't take you to court. But I can't live with things the way they are right now. He agreed to doing this dialogue. And this was really early in my days, so I needed to lean on the facilitator. This was part of what had me so passionate about nonviolent communication is truly, we did a couple of these conversations, my ex-husband and I, with a facilitated session with an NVC facilitated trainer. And for me, they really felt like miracles. So at the time, in this conversation with my ex-husband, we couldn't talk. We were in a horrible kind of relationship to each other. I mean, we could not last 10 minutes in each other's space without some kind of blowout happening. And it had been that way for a decade. In this NVC mediated session, we actually spent close to 3 hours. You know, he was like, oh, I only want to be there for a half hour. That's as much time as I'll give it. But he found so much value in the quality of the dialogue that was happening that he chose to trust in it and to really stick it through. And there were a number of things that we needed to actually clear simply to have the space to have a conversation about money. We had a whole big past of upsets. Both of us had upsets towards each other. Both of us felt very hurt by each other. And all of that hurt was making it so that we were unwilling to compromise or shift. You know, there might have been a begrudging compromise because, you know, we both felt that our hand was forced. But fortunately, we got through that. And we didn't have to compromise. What ended up happening is as we came to really understand each other, rather than feeling anger and feeling, you know, those old stories of betrayal in relationship to each other, we started to get represenced so that we really loved each other. We were not compatible, right? As partners, we were not compatible. But the love is there. And we came to understand the very difficult situations that each of us were holding in consideration as we were seeking to figure out how do we work through this. And so as we came to really deeply finding mutual, compassionate understanding, it opened our hearts into a desire to contribute to each other. My request of him went down from what I thought I wanted, and his generosity went up. And that happened naturally. So it wasn't a compromise. It was a shift that happened because we had actually been able to reach each other's hearts with empathy, with understanding, with love and respect. And when we were on the same page, when we really got each other, the solutions started to open. He understood that the amount of money he was giving me was going to be still hard for me to make things. And so he got creative with me to try and figure out how do we fill in the gaps. And so we were able to do that. And it became a partnership as opposed to what it was before, which definitely was not feeling like a partnership. So again, this idea of shift versus compromise, there was no compromise in that conversation. Compromise can come from a place of, again, feeling like you have to, you're going to have to just give up on something in order to have something that you want. Each person partially loses so they can both partially win. A shift actually goes so deeply into the heart, so deeply into compassionate understanding, that it's really like this new space opens up and problems can be resolved. Marshall Rosenberg used to say, give me any kind of conflict between two people. And as soon as you both deeply, compassionately understand each other fully, the solution will emerge in under 10 minutes. The work is to truly, deeply understand each other. With that, the shift will occur.